Okay, hi to everyone, or good evening. I forgot to, or I remember it yesterday that I didn't have the voting topic made yet, so didn't create it at all then. Someone suggested about some MTT-SNG games on the chat, or a couple of people I think, so let's go with those this time. Deja said that Kauris was also suggesting somewhere on the Finnish side, I think, that we could keep some tool-related coaching at some point. It might be interesting, but have to think about it a little more because I read that comment like 10 minutes ago or something, so let's think that about later. But I started some of the 45 men's, 90 men's and 180 men's on the Poker Stars. I'm not sure if there is some MTT-SNG here on the 888. I think there are some. Like here is some sort of, that is normal speed. Well, that seems to be super turbo. There is some $5 nitro, which is probably some sort of super turbo as well. We could register into that one. Maybe it starts soon. For Alex asking what we are going to play, I will be playing MTT-SNG this time. And also take some of those from the 888 poker, if there is some starting. There's at least, well, it started already. It's some sort of $1.60 man, at least super turbo. I'm not taking any normal speed because they would probably last like 2 hours or something pretty easily. King Jack getting pretty great price. Let's call. Just have to be kind of careful if hitting just top pair, for example, and getting heavy action, because it still is five-way pot. So, for example, here it would be kind of nasty if the queen would, for example, be king and facing from the UTG razor pot size c-bet. Ace king. Well, that is pretty spooky. But I think that's sort of understandable that some recreational players, of course, ace king is great hand on pre-flop, but when you get dry queen high flop in 5-way pot, it shouldn't really be that great anymore. This nitro seems to be some sort of four-handed format. Haven't played this ever. But I suppose blind levels are going to be like 4 minutes probably. Every 3 minutes. So not too much of deep stack play. If 50 pp can be set to be deep. Well, it's relatively deep for MTT. And those super turbos seems to be same as single table ones. At sixes, I could be opening pretty deep stacks, so of course there can be quite... well, I don't have the tool for betting definitions on. I'm not sure if I mean, it would not be working on the poker stars anyway. Have been using the 888 caption on the 888. But probably not too big of a deal. 888, pretty great price again. And totally missing, so just check folding. Now we hit 9, but there's not too much value in betting, and this guy can easily have ace or king tier. I have also one player behind, so I'm just going to be folding. This is not the greatest of situations, but I try to see bet once and give up if he calls. I think he can still be folding some pocket pairs, some mediocre AX he might be calling, and so on. But it's probably quite close, whatever check folding would be better here. If he's not like calling overly wide in that spot. So we now have quite a few tables. Again, great hands to complete, but completely missing the flop, so pretty much kind of same in here. Suited king getting like 1 to 11 or 1 to 10 or something. And if hitting flush draw, it's most of the time best one there is, so. But again, if we hit king with no backdoor draws and so on, it's not going to be much we can do in 5-way pot. And in here I could go already into min raising. Starts to be kind of, and I don't have actually even Hold'em manager. Start, why the heck I not. In here I think I have to go broke with the ace jack. And in good shape. Line 8 I could also be limping, but probably versus unknown. Min raise is going to be better. 9 jack suited, I'm just going to be shoving here with this stack depth. I don't really want to limp fold or min raise fold, so shoving is pretty much always decent option here. Especially if there was antis, it would be actually pretty much standard play. And in here with pocket 8s, I think I'm going for small 3-bet with idea to stack off against the opening guy. This guy manages to cold here. And with how little he has behind, I'm definitely just betting basically my full range here. Nine jack. They have all checked, so I could be semi-bluffing tier. And here he bet 30, so I didn't see bet because I just thought that he might not be folding that much on pretty coordinated board. Yeah, as Alex said here, I just had forgot to launch my Hold'em manager, so should have HUD now on every table. Jack 10 suited, getting great price. And here on the Poker Stars, when there is antes from the start, it's going to be a lot more valuable to be stealing. In the early pace as well. But here I see bet relatively big on this kind of dry flop because it was still three-way, so I think he will be continuing big amount of time. Of course, if he happens to have king 9, that was pretty ugly turn card. Kind of surprising he folded, probably some sort of a high or some small pocket. I don't think he would be folding queen x. S9 with antes probably okay. It's going to be pretty borderline. That was actually it was raised, so that no, yeah. It was 30-60. I thought was it open raised situation, but no. In theory it was 5 pp open, so not sure if I should be calling queen 10 off tier. Against more of normal open size I would have been calling. And pretty dry flop. Could also see bet a bit smaller, but from so small sample seems kind of fizzy guy also, so against fizzy sort of guys I often don't really care about balancing side of bet sizes and so on. So I might be betting a bit more when I actually have the hand and a bit less when I have air. But of course against more unknown or better looking players, that's not going to be the greatest of strategies. And I checked on the jack high flop tier against two player. When they again check, I think I have best hand really often. Ace is kind of ugly. I think it can be a bit hard to get value from 8x anymore on that scare card, and he might have some AX himself, so. And of course no draws are going to be calling, so. If it was total blank river I would have bet again. 4-3 suited deep stack from button. Should be okay. Would have been shoving this queen 8, and I probably have these hearts and wrong positions in here because I have never played that sort of format. Got shot and 2 overcards. If I can get cheap turn, I'm going to be calling. Say, oh, check, but when it's 4-way, I don't think I should be. And this is not really like Nash shove against good players. I shouldn't be shoving that, but they are probably tight enough. I think suited king would have been pretty standard. H7, shoving against anyone. And he raises me on this flop. Seems kind of weird line. Of course he can have some sort of two pairs or something, but I have kind of hard time to believe. Of course that was kind of bad card, because now if he did have some sort of... But it's kind of, would he be what sort of queen X he would really be raising? I don't really see that many of those. If it wasn't like ace queen maybe already beaten my hand, so I think this might be reasonable bluff catching if he bets the river. Because if he has king queen or queen jack, why he would be raising the flop? King 5, I'm going to min raise. Have to fold against small blind, but quite often this is going to be plus EV. Pocket 8. Tight looking player. I'm probably making kind of tight fold. Basically the options are to either shove or fold. I don't think calling really make that much sense on those stack depths. And in here I see bet for protection and value. When he check raises, I think I just have to fold. I could also check behind on the flop, but the problem is that with pocket sevens there is just so many overcards that can come on the turn, so it has more merit in c-betting compared to that pocket tens hand earlier when it was jack high. So I'm more likely to be c-betting that sort of spot. And in here I think I should be really wide because PP is sitting out. And well, queen queen, I'm probably not getting better hands to fold, so checking make most sense. Or actually it was three-way. Might have actually gotten some a-highs to fold. I just looked at I was against PP and he's probably not looking at least pretty loose from those statistics, so probably not folding. Maybe some weak a-highs or something. And king jack I have to go if the basically he's opening from button when the button guy is sitting out, so with this sort of stack. And main 3 betting, I'm not folding suited ace. And this guy happened to have monster hand. But also when I'm with just top pair weak kicker, it's not going to be that huge of a hand, and now he makes pot size. He would probably not make such move with any sort of queens or... Well, kind of nasty river card, completes king queen. He might have some AX. So let's start some other game from the 888. And ace king. He's 3-betting pretty big. I think I'm just going to shove here. I don't really love the situation, but when he 3-bets that big, calling is going to be kind of expensive as well. And here it's pretty easy value shove. And we are flipping, and no luck this time. So if there is, do you guys have interest for sort of coaching related, tool related coaching? For example, that we could go through some of different tools which can be used to analyze any different sort of pre-flop situations and post-flop situations, and we could, for example, go through some of the here I pretty much have to call, and I have already invested almost half of my of the stack I had before hitting blinds, and this is really great situation actually, that I was got against one player and both cards alive. So I have like pretty close to 40 or a bit less than 40% equity here. Six, seven, let's open. King, queen. There is already one player all in, but there's also a bit of side pot, so I think I can be c-betting. Both guys check again, so maybe I try to semi-bluff here. I do have gut shot also, so there is some not outs as well. But queen 9-9 flop is sort of flop that gives quite easily something for two villain ranges, so I didn't like the idea to sweep at the flop, but when they both check twice, I think it decreases likelihood of those pair combos or draw combos enough that I can try to take the pot down. A high flop, two opponents, not the greatest of situations with jacks. And if the small blind bets, I think I pretty much have to fold. Flush completed, which is kind of bad for my hand, but I think there's still value in betting because I beat all sort of jack X basically. But it would have been way better if the flush draw didn't complete. He would be much more easily bluff catching, maybe with some jack way high pocket pairs and so on. at least Eki says that he's interested. Of course, we have gone through a lot of Hold'em resources calculator in different coachings already, but there are also other sort of tools. For example, here Ace King suited, I'm going to be flipping here. With some luck, he has some sort of Ace Queen as well, and that was pretty unlucky. That we were blocking each other, and one pocket pair got into here as well, so he was quite big favorite. And in here it's kind of drawy board, but also stack sizes are so small that I think even betting like 300 would be totally fine here. But by betting that sort of amount, I can easily shove the turn if he flat me or calls the flop. So when the stacks are so shallow, you don't need to use that big c-bet sizes. In here, I could try to c-bet. And Ace King getting in again, hopefully with bit better results. And limping 6-8, I'm going to be c-betting small here. And this is really common spot for limp step line, that he might be hesitant to just fold even if he totally misses. Because I obviously don't have often anything myself here, so he might be doing some floating plays. If he had called the flop, I would have really often checked the turn, because it's kind of tough for Will to have like a heist here when he checks the pre-flop. So of course he might have some king highs, and maybe he would call second barrel with it sometimes, but it's kind of optimistic. And if he's much more easily floating, then King Queen suited is kind of interesting. These guys haven't been 3-betting that much. Well, I'm in race, it's just that I'm probably going to call if they shove, because this is early game and we are basically playing chip EV. So if we are not willing to raise call, I think we should be just shoving this pretty much always. Of course, I'm not loving the situation when kind of tight looking player shoves, but we only have quite small sample on the will lane, so. But in general, I think raise call or shoving are the best options. We shouldn't be really raise folding that sort of hand without decent sample on the will lane that he's really tight. Ace 4 off, where I have hearts on this guy. Not sure where is this guy, or did he just come into table or something? Well, let's open. If the button is loose or players are 3-bet happy, then, or it's not actually that big of a problem if villains are mostly folding or 3-betting, because then we have quite nice value from the blocker, a high blocker. But if they are calling, for example, if button is really actively calling, then it's not the greatest of hands to be opening. Or even if the blinds are really often calling, because with A4, Ace 4, it's just kind of tough to flop much. I don't have the hard try. Okay, here it is. Queen 7, do I want to be completing here? I think it's kind of close. because it's again kind of hand that even if we hit like queen high flop, it's not the greatest of hands anyway, and we flop only few percent of time 2 pairs or better, so I'm just checking here, and some small portion of time I might even win with the queen high. Yeah, it's good point from the Eki that how to use tools in different situations, because it's not enough to have the tool if there is no knowledge how to use it. King 8, I'm just 4 pp deep here with anti-adjusted, so I think I have to be shoving pretty much. Of course it's knockout, so players might be a bit more eager to be calling. 7-9, not the greatest of flops to see, but quite easily hits on the blinds ranges, especially if they are somewhat loose players or someone who knows enough to defend wide. But if we have some really nitty looking player, I think they will tend to have quite rarely hands that flop would hit that flop well. And ace-9 suited is going to be nuts on the Nitro game. Hopefully this guy shoves. Three eight, pretty tight looking player from small sample. I could try to min raise. Of course this is extremely exploitable style to be min raising basically any two, or I wouldn't min raise any two anyway because I would be shoving the mediocre hand, but it can be okay to have that sort of crappy hands and premium hands also in min raising range, so it's kind of sensible overall as well. But when we have that tight looking player, of course small sample, but it's still some sort of indication. It means that basically min raising any two might be profitable quite easily. Queen 8 suited, quite many short stacks, so I'm going to be folding. There's now 6, 8, I think 8 games running, which is pretty good amount. With 10, I think it will be pretty easily too action heavy for the coaching. Ace-9 suited, again nutty hand, and the guy haven't been raising at all, so no reason to think that this would be trap really often or something. And when we are playing $1 game, it's just a fact that players are really often making passive limping plays even with that sort of stacks. So for example, this sort of situations are pretty common, and it can be profitable to shove here really wide as well. And of course on these Nitro Super Turbo formats, it's often going to be quite flip heavy structures. That diamond was pretty nice. And ace queen, we are shoving. Unfortunately lost the big pot with queens. And now seems we are losing that one. 2000 here. I don't really like to shove. I think open folding is best. I thought that where the heck is my cards, but I had moved into different position. Would have been kind of rigged to get action spot and no cards. No idea what is the situation here. 10 players remaining, 3 gets into money. 5 jack suited, I'm defending from the PP. And in here I'm going to shove any 2. It's most likely profitable. And suited ace, I'm shoving from early position with that stack depth. In here I could try to stab. He didn't see at the flop, so it should decrease flush combos somewhat. He had smallish queen, but pretty often he doesn't have like big queen diamonds here. Looks kind of scary when he shoves that. Of course it's pretty small stack on the villain, so he can be pretty wide. Those 3 cannot be shoving, and when small blind is so shallow, he should be calling really often. Which he might not be doing, but in general we shouldn't be shoving overly wide in that sort of situation. And 3xing, I think I would have called if the small blind would have folded. Because with the antes in play, h6 suited I could have actually called here, I think. King 9, I could just flat here and try to give him rope to be bluffing. But I think I can be shoving here. If he has some sort of straight draw, he's going to be calling anyway. But if he has air, he might be just check folding river really often. So in here we are second, 70 people left. Six, 7 suited. From PP this would be pretty clear call. Probably better to fold in that spot. And in here I tried to min raise. We only have 2 hands on the guy, so Even if his statistics looks loose, it doesn't really matter anything. And queen h2 that I'm going to be shoving. I think I'm going to be shoving even over that limp, because we have seen people limp folding quite a lot here. Of course, we again don't have much of statistics on the guy, but I think with 10 pp we should have quite decent fold equity against general players. And ace 10 I can shove, I can also min raise, but okay, 3 is pretty clear shove. Of course, wouldn't mind to get folds directly. So pretty important flip coming, or hopefully flip. Or I wouldn't mind if he had deuces, but it's quite unlikely. Well, good that he didn't have deuces this time, if that was the flop, but no luck anyway. So now we end up into pretty shallow stack and have to go pretty wide here, and this looks kind of nutty hand for this sort of situation, unless there is action from multiple players. I might try to go for stop and go here, maybe I can get him to fold something. It's kind of questionable whatever he will fold anything better at least. And basically even if I hit, I don't think it, I think it's kind of okay. Kind of okay to just shove, because it's basically always good if they fold something. And king 6 I'm obviously going with that in that hand, but when the flop is so dry I should be, I think there is more value in taking passive line and again giving the villain rope to be bluffing or betting something weaker. I think if he calls like 700 he's probably calling shove as well, really often. And here we are pretty close to final table. Well, that was kind of slow call with pocket pair. And pocket 6 is easy shove. His jack I'm shoving here. With that sort of stack, it's kind of questionable whatever small raise would be better. We could raise to something like maximum 3 pp and try to lure him into pot, but it's just that even when we don't hit, it's going to be pretty easily quite awkward situations on the flop. That if we see bet, we are going to be quite close to quite close to, and in here I go for kind of special play, try to create fold equity. It's just so big amount of chips compared to my stack, and even if he calls I might have both cards alive. And when it's fishy looking guy, they can be folding. Great situation in here. Unfortunately had that small stack, so no knockout value. But yeah, I think those games on the 888 poker, those MTT-SNG games, they only run on so small limits that I don't think there is much point in playing those, unless it's just for like increasing small bankroll. And in here, quite close to bubble or final table as well, with 4 PP, pretty standard shove with 9 jack. Of course, PP is going to be calling pretty often. But it's just that, for example, those nitros, they are four-handed, and if it's half of the winnings to first player, it's going to be kind of original format. I would say that there is no similar sort of games, at least on PokerStars, for example. So it's kind of situation that do we want to use time to learn such game. If it only runs like up to $5 or something. There was bigger ones as well, but at least now there was no players. I could be min raising ace-8 here, call against the PP and fold against other people. I think from this position it's still okay play. Well, Jack 3 suited is going to be too weak. We want to shove relatively wide here because the blinds are going to be hurting us pretty badly, but still. From suited jacks, I think something like Jack 7 suited I would be shoving. And in here, if it was a bit more connected, I could call and check the flop, but Jack 6 suited is not going to be hitting often enough. But for example, if I do have something like Jack 10 suited, I can call here, and if I happen to miss flop basically completely, then I can just give up. Still, well, it's pretty close, but I think some flops we can be check folding. Some we might want to be donk shoving and so on. And ace queen, I have to go here. So we should be decent shape here. In 5th position now. Ace 9, not the greatest of flops. I don't think we get enough to fold on that sort of flop. It just so easily hits. And in here I think regular can be pretty wide, so with this sort of pot odds, ace-9 is probably okay. And he has now 9-jack suited. But hits flush. 9-5. One. I think I'm folding here. It's just that if I lose that one, I basically lose all fold equity. And when it's 7 players into monies, there is some ICM considerations as well. With 9 players remaining. So when queen suited, I'm shoving if it's unopened. And jack 10, I'm shoving. So it's direct bubble now. Well, aces is going to be pretty easy. Easy one from decision part. And seems we do have double up candidate here. He shouldn't be folding ever with the pot odds he's getting. Even hands he might be raise folding against these bigger stacks. I think he will be calling against my stack. And queen jack with the antes. It's going to be okay. In pocket 6s I'm going to be ISO raising. Yeah, I could also limp, but I think with 6s it starts to be on the borderline. Whatever to limp or raise. He actually folded. Wow. It calls. I can still be ahead good amount of time, but there's really no point to be betting again. Also, I definitely don't want to face any sort of check raise. And I have to be checking again. It's pretty thin to bet, I would say. Of course, if we could be sure that he's value betting 10x, for example, then we could go for value bet here. And in here I'm checking twice with the king. If he's checking again, then I'm going to value bet. And in general, there's not that much value in betting the queen high on the upper right, because usually players are not going to be check folding better hands. So I'm happy to be checking, and I might win decent amount of time against random player sitting out here. Well, it was pretty crappy hand. And yeah, these games probably don't have any sort of break. Or might be that it's just started. started so that the break had already started. But yeah, I think I will. Well, I think I will unregister these I had registered so far, because if I register now new games, they might be taking a bit too long. I could actually start at 45 minutes, should be short enough. Let's add $1.5 game as well, so those are probably starting quite quickly. And on this 888 poker game, when there is no antes from the start, then I don't see that much merit in stealing overly wide. I want to have some sort of playability for the hand, even if I'm on the bottom. And one of the downsides on these MTT-SNG games is that they can start at any time, and if they do start during the break, then you either have to choose that basically you don't start new games, or you don't play the hands during the break, or you don't keep the break. So I think the optimal decision pretty often is to not to register games when the break is starting. Of course, there might be some edge to be gained that if regulars in general don't register into games that much at that time, they might be a bit softer. King 8 I'm opening. There's actually also antes now, but King 8 would be playable enough to open anyway. And kind of interesting spot when they both give action. I could peel one card and see if they continue aggression. Folding would not be bad either. And flush completes, and so on, so no point to continue. And I think if I had bit weaker medium pair, folding would have definitely been better. Not totally sure on that spot. So we have 8 tables now. And flipping again. Well, I could also start some of those nitros, they are probably pretty quick overall. Ace Queen is practical nuts here. you don't really necessarily want to get caught by these big stacks, because their ranges tend to be pretty tight. Jack 10 shooters, 10 PPD, pretty easy. Easy shoving spot. And ace queen suited, I'm actually going to 3-bet somewhat smallish size. Basically to try and isolate that open raiser. When he min raises with first blind level, I don't really love the idea to just call, because I think there's a bit more value overall. This guy min raise folded earlier, but it's quite heavy ICM spot, and king 6 off is not the greatest of hands. Bet 60 again. Would I ever win that? It's probably quite unlikely with this sort of board. I could try to raise big, but they just so rarely fold. 6-5 off. It's going to be a bit too weak to be shoving. Of course, I could also inflict quite good amount of ICM pressure if players feel that it is $1.5 game, so thinking that there is a lot of ICM understanding is quite questionable. A7 here, his smallest stack, so his range should be pretty decently wide here. I think it's pretty marginal spot. Definitely if I'm like in the blinds, it's snap call situation, but that position makes it a bit more nasty. In here I could, against random player, try to stab that flop. King deuce is pretty much always okay. Blind versus blind 10 pp, or was it a bit more? And pretty much same with 8 jack. Well, it's not quite like Nassau, but again, situation where I think I can usually go a bit wider. Is to show that I'm going to be shoving in an open situation, or min raising is okay as well, and call these 4000 stacks. In here it might be 10 players remaining. 8-6 suited. Let's try to min raise. Of course I'm calling against these smaller stacks, but I probably get decent amount of respect by and in here I just went for check line because I think it's often going to be best line to try and make villain bluff, because it's so tough for him to have much in here. Of course it's kind of exploitative line, so to say. But if the general population is fishy, I don't mind the line at all. For Foxcatcher, as always, basically we are starting 9 o'clock PM Finnish time. A7, pretty weird open race size, or yeah, this looks, I don't know, was it open race or just seems so weird when the dealer button is here and ace queen. Well, I can either min raise call or shove that hand. Queen high. Could be checking that one as well. No idea about the opponent, so it's just that if he's kind of aggressive, it's, well, pretty much this is the reason why I checked the flop. Well, let's give respect. For the Foxcatcher, basically King Queen is pretty nice. I'm just wondering if I would have fold equity if I shove. It's often going to be kind of nice. Again, kind of nasty spot on the bottom table. I just think that would he make this sort of play, how often with premium holding? Well, he did have the king. It's just like why to shove that sort of hand, but those are this kind of spots that I often end up into leveling myself, maybe to bad call. But it's good idea to suck out if behind. Kind of many tables now, it seems. I thought actually of min open folding Jack 8 here. And well, I probably pretty rarely I'm ahead with the ace jack here. Seven players remaining. 7-6 shooter, pretty easy shove if this guy. I might even shove against min raise, but when he open raises that huge, he's never folding. Well, let's fold. I might try to limp sometimes as well. So the benefit of the king queen is often when you have, I think I had quite sizable stack, is that even if there is bigger stacks on the table, they can't really be calling that wide either. And even if they call, king queen often has good equity anyway. So it's not like disaster situation of there. Of course, we don't want to get caught by big stack because of the ICM reasons as well. And he has been opening big, so ace-10 is going to be pretty clear. So let's try to limp with the 6-9. And in here we can inflict, or should be able to inflict good amount of ICM pressure. So I think shoving that hand is going to be okay. And king 9 suited, I'm shoving. Queen jack, I'm shoving. Pretty huge hand. And in here I'm smallest stack. I might even have some fold equity. Basically only way to fold here would be that I'm pretty sure of Will Lane trapping with his min raise with that stack depth. Otherwise it would be just absurdly tight fold. And again running into big ace. So few bucks here. Not sure how many. E6 is going to be pretty easy solve. And seems like my 6 kicker is going to be playing. So what is the situation now? 6 players, or is there going to be like 3 heads-up tables now, or does it now balance the situation? No. This has been quite aggro guy, so king 3 would have been quite close if he had been shoving. And when the stacks are so shallow, there's not much point in min raising. And 5-7 is going to be too weak. So we are probably now in the final table. So it's actually bubble situation. And I have a really great stack to be abusing. And you can see $46 the winner, so it's decently nice amount of money. So if players understand ICM, I should be shoving pretty close to any two in this situation, and pretty much every hand. Well, 9 deuce, do I want to shove any two? I probably don't want to be, even if I think if the villains would play optimally, I think I could be shoving even that, but I'm not giving that much respect to these guys. But any decent hand I would be shoving, for example, some 5-4 suited or something. I think I can still fold like bottom 15% or around that. Not actually sure if this is quite close to 9-man structure. I think it's quite similar. From the price pool that is. King Jack I'm calling here from the PP. And of course I pretty much have to go with this sort of flop. And I mean raised that crappy hand because usually people aren't tight enough for that to be profitable. So we have a huge pile of cash here on the... If he's shoving again, then I should be probably adjusting. And he bets small. Could I raise here? I'm going to try it. It's kind of dry flop. Okay, he flopped quads. That was possible that he has some nutty hand when he checks the flop, but with the amount of stack I had, I don't think there's too much I can do in that spot. So he seems to be pretty actively calling on the pre-flop at least, so I tried to limp. And yeah, if he has queen, he's probably never folding. And he pretty much shouldn't be folding at any point. Let's just fold. If he's not folding to min raises, then limping with deuce 8 doesn't really make much sense either. X9, I'm defending and basically missing the flop. So even if I have like some backdoors over cards, there's really not much of space to be making moves. So now we do hit, and he bets. So I'm just going to be... Of course I could raise here as well, but it's probably more likely that he continues wider if I just flat on the flop. And he had total air and happened to hit the pair on the turn, which was pretty lucky for me. Well, maybe he would have bluffed it off anyway. In here, 6-7 suited, I'm going to min raise. Of course, it's knockout game, so I'm probably not getting that much folds, but it's basically okay spot for me to gamble. Well, at least I got action, if nothing else. And Here, I think he so rarely has 5x that I should be value betting again. King 7, 20 pp shove, I can't really, or I have to assume that he's like, well, he did have the 5. It's quite unlikely. It's quite unlikely that he actually has that one, I would say. Well, ace 8 is going to be easy snap call, but he folds. Do I want to just shove because he has been so aggressive? I'm going to be just shoving. It's basically always plus EV. And if player is often going to be raising my limp, it doesn't really make much sense. Question on the Twitch. Well, at least for Miss Matter on the Twitch, that our video content is pretty nice. And also there is value in... I could also limp, I could shove, I can min raise call. I think pretty much all options are okay with this hand. And again, he starts to be donking. Earlier he had total air, so let's just call and give him space if he wants to be bluffing, and let's take some time to think about our tough situation. So maybe he thinks that we have tough decision on the flop and turn. And that was pretty nice poo from the villain. Obviously he should be just... His call against my min raise with 5-4 is kind of plausible, but he should just be check folding that flop basically always. So at least our YouTube content is going to be pretty nice. Nice on the different. We have pretty much videos on STT games, MTT-SNGs. Ardimetsa has done some MTT stuff as well. And then also Kyber is doing the Omaha videos cash game side. And as I said earlier, I think going through those hand analyzing area content is always going to be okay, and think about different hands, like how would I play that, what would be my reasons in the hands to do something, is other people thinking in same way, and if they are not, what is the reason. And it's not like if the opinions are different from yours, it's not always that they are right and you are wrong, because the poker is obviously game of multiple ways to play. Pocket sixes, I'm going to be shoving here. Seems to be kind of limp happy guy from the small sample. And 7 jack suited, I'm shoving. Of course, small blind is calling good amount of time, but basically if I'm getting good amount of chips from the PP when he folds, often it's going to be okay. Okay spot. And Alex asking how to adjust in heads up against aggressive opponents. Well, usually you have to adjust in a way that you can't, for example, against some unknown or like relatively tight players, you can even min raise any two and make direct profit by that. But if some player is really often 3-betting you, you basically have to, usually you want to polarize your min-raise range quite a bit and limp much more. And if he's aggressive against the limping as well, then you want to also, or you have more reasons to balance that limping range so that it has strong stuff as well. But if you are against really tight wheel lane, then it might be best to use really exploitable line and min-raise basically all weak to medium hands and limp the premium stuff. Jack 10 off, I'm really rarely going to be shoving in this situation, and especially not with this info. A suitor Jack 10 would be much more normal 3-bet shoving hand. But even that, when we have 15 hands and Villain has been playing 7/0, of course it's not much of sample, so it might be just guarded. But good side from like Jack 10 suited in re-steal situation is that it often has really nice equity, even against the calling ranges. So you have the fold equity from the shove, which is usually pretty high in that sort of situation that you are shoving almost 20 pp against button min raise. And you also have equity when he calls. Quite often something like 35–40%, something like that. So it's not going to be that rare to win the pot still. Or like 40% is a bit too high, but 35 is probably something like you often have. So is here, I think that is probably the first test situation from these 4, or actually only 4 tables, so we can put them all visible here. And we have flipping spot with the 9s. Open raiser will probably fold decent amount of time here against 2 all-ins. Well, not if he has. If he has just monster. But we can't do anything here with that strong hand. And ace queen, we have to call. King jack, we have to be folding. Would have been great shoving spots, but we are not in good enough shape against villain shoving here. Was it like 13 into monies or something, I think. Yeah. King jack, I'm usually opening here. Basically, we can't call anyone shove, but at the same time, we have blocker value, we have playable hands if villains are calling. So those 2 reasons are often reason enough to be min raising here. And they shouldn't have that much of pocket pairs, so this would be reasonable c-betting spot in my opinion. They probably don't have much stuff that connects with this flop either, and I can have really strong hands. So should be getting folds really often, even getting some a highs to fold, I think. And the good side, of course, when they fold, even if they have just weaker stuff they are folding, is that we anyway take their equity away. Like king 10 here, 6 people behind. Well, let's open. not too tree happy looking guys overall. And if they flat from blinds, it's not the most horrible of situations. In here it might be okay to check behind as well. But kind of similar spot that quite often I will get folds here. Queen 9. I think I can call here, and if PP happens to be shoving, I can then fold. Because there is so much in the pot from the antes and blinds and so on. And he actually flats, which is in my opinion kind of surprising. Well, he did have quite nice hand. And ace queen, I'm shoving on the upper right if there's no 3-bets. And hello for Makui in the Twitch chat. Ace 5 shoving if it's unopened. Or if someone limps, I might be shoving as well. But for example, if this Penton guy would be limping, it would be way often trap from player like 24, 20/21, 20/24/21. So should get some sort of hand on the upper or bottom left. So I could be shoving. It's still really far from the money, so we have to double up twice pretty much. And the suited ace is going to be really great if this guy folds. We still have decent fold equity, and suited ace will have decent equity anyway. But yeah, basically in heads up my default line is often to try and min raise really wide. Because if player is too tight, and they often are, in my opinion, it will be really profitable. But if they seems to be resisting, then you have to adjust. Or if the player has been active earlier, you can assume that they are going to be relatively loose on the heads up as well. It's quite rare that player who is loose, like loose aggressive, for example, in the early part of game, it's quite rarely that they would tighten up on heads up. And looking great on the bottom left, at least this point. So now we are 15 from 54 players. It would actually have quite nice price pool here, but still far from the nice monies. And king queen, I'm pretty much always playing unless there is multiple all-ins is basically only reason to be folding. And basically here king queen I don't want to min raise fold, and it's closer to money, so there starts to be a bit more ICM. Of course ICM side is really small, but if I min raise here, it's usually not situation for players to be shoving wide because PP is so short that I usually have some sort of decent hand here anyway. So in pretty decent shape on the upper right. King 3, kind of bad combination that PP is aggressive and small blind is looking kind of call happy with small stacks, so I think I should be open folding king 3. And passive looking player 3xing from the button, so nothing I can do with king 9. And for Eki you probably send it some sort of link for some content that is not wanted, or from some competitor or something, if it was deleted from the Twitch chat. And Jack 8 here, plus EV shove against anyone basically. Only other option would be limping. Min raising doesn't really make, unless we think that villain is going to be really tight, then we can min raise, but shoving is pretty standard play. Strong enough hand for that. And 10-9 I'm shoving as well if it's unopened. And Jack 6 suited. With this shallow stacks, I think that's a shove. Random player might even fold sometimes, or he might have some total crap. It's pretty close. Checking would be okay as well. Of course on this flop I would have never folded anyway. And queen 4 as well. Kind of wrecky looking player, but with the big antes I think that is always going to be profitable as well. And big pot on the upper right. Have not dropped anyone so far. And seems like it ended on that spot. But really standard shove, basically. Nothing else to do. Oh, well. It was removed by the bot, so maybe it doesn't allow any sort of links or something. But I think YouTube, Pokerimania or Poker Imania YouTube channel is quite easy to find. Shouldn't be a problem for anyone. So in here we are really close to final table. One more player dropping out, and maybe it's better if I move the tables here on the upper part and place lobbies on the bottom. So easier to follow situations. Unknown player. 7-3 is kind of weak to be shoving, so let's try min raising. And he snap shoves. It's just that we basically invest 600 to win 725, so for example, if the lane is folding 50% of time, it will be directly profitable. And I think against a random player, it's often going to happen. And when we have stack size that it's not going to like dramatically hit our stack, even if we have to raise fold, it's not that horrible outcome. So in final table now, and in here we are closing on the bubble. Of course we are not scared of the close to bubble situations here, that if we get plus EV situations, we should be taking those pretty eagerly. It doesn't really matter that much whatever we. Of course, if we are in situation that we are really close to bubble, in here I'm going to be shoving suited ace with my stack depth. Offsuit a7 I would definitely just open fold. That if we are in like really close to bubble and we are really short stack, we should be trying to get through the bubble, because then it's quite a big deal that if we get into monies or not, and it can end up into kind of folding war situations, or situations where we want maybe stall some spots and try that some other players would be first to blind out. 4-3 here is not going to be really strong enough, because I don't cover enough of the villain stack. But kind of situation that when we are in direct bubble, and if we had like 9,000 chips ourselves, I think we could be shoving any two against most regs at least. Because the ICM pressure is going to be pretty high. Like queen 10 off, I would be shoving here. Probably queen 8 suited as well. Suited king, I'm definitely shoving if it's unopened. Even if we are really close to bubble here, it's going to be quite big part of the villain stacks behind us as well, so I think we have pretty nice fold equity. Offsuit king would usually be a bit too loose here, but suited king is kind of standard. Especially as these players are probably not making like absurdly wide calls, so should be part of Nash range. And he wakes up with monster. Still flush out, but no luck. Well, he's obviously not going to fold ace-10 suited. So no big monies from here. Yeah, good point from Kaur is that it's poker eye mania, not poker mania. Basically, that eye on tier comes from the fact that our site was first created for Finnish site only, and it was quickly talked out name basically. So in Finnish it's Pokerimania, but in English it's not quite that convenient. Not sure of the results. We are probably, well, depending how many of those $15 games we had. I think from 888 poker side, when we won that one game, we are probably something like $35 up or something. But we have had these $7 and $15 games here on Poker Stars, so, and I'm not sure if we have cashed much of those, if any. So probably requires decent position from this one. And pretty great situation for this button guy. Should be shoving any two pretty much with his big stack against medium stacks. Or playing any two. He can also min-raise fold some crappy hands. And he balanced that with some monster hands. So seems like we got something at least. Queen for suited, we are folding besides against anyone besides this small blind, of course. Especially as players here shouldn't basically shove total crap, because small blind is going to be calling pretty wide, and it's good call by the small blind, then 8 off. Ace 8. Well, definitely shoving now. And running into aces. Nasty. Well, no luck on that one either. So let's check results. So in 888 we played 5 games and won that one game, so it's looking pretty nice. So not quite 35 bucks, but 33. And from Poker Stars, yeah, not looking quite that nice, because we actually didn't guess, well, that one guess only on last position, so it won't look too great. But usually, as with these sort of games, craps tend to go down and up in pretty big swings. But yeah, did we have hands to check? Well, we could all check, for example, that king deuce suited spot when we were on the bottom. So it was this one. It was quite close to bubble. I think it was 32 players remaining. So when we analyze this sort of situation, we should be taking basically some sort of ICM into account. So I think like using 80-20 structure is going to be okay. But I think suited king should be pretty much always open shoving hand. So with these assumptions, it's going to be pretty clearly plus EV, and it does assume really wide calling ranges. So even if PP is calling almost half of his hands, which of course makes sense when considering it's only 6 PP deep and there is antes from full table pretty much, so he's getting pretty great pot odds. And the fact is that I think this sort of calling range is usually not going to happen, and it's more likely that we can tighten this bit, and then it becomes even more clear. Was there any other? There was that 9, was it 9-5 off from the PP? I think it was actually on the 8-8-8 side, or was it? Well, I'm not totally sure. Marking hands during session would be something pretty reasonable. Well, it wasn't this one. If it was 9-5, might be some 9-4 or something like that. Yeah, it was this one. This guy was like 3 PP deep, or closer to 4 PP, but anti-adjusted 3 PP. and it was, I think this was 45 men close to final table. So we can use the same 80-20, or actually it's, yeah, it's actually final table. So we should be using the actual price structure. I think 9-5 off is not quite call, but something like 9-8 at least should be calling hand with those spot odds. But let's see what ORC says. So if he's shoving 45%, 9-5 is bit off, 9-7 would be okay. This is depending of the player. Did we have any sort of, from this small sample he seems kind of wrecky. So I don't think he's shoving any 2 here, because this other small player is going to be blinded out first, but he can definitely be wider than 45%. So we can of course use the range versus hand and see when the 9-5 off would be. Actually never. Well, that's, if I actually used wrong one probably. Or did I actually? Yeah. Now it makes more sense. So he would need to shove like 90% of hands or a bit more. So most of the time we should be folding 9-5 off. Actually I did look something different, because now it's 9-7. But yeah, a bit outside. But we should be pretty wide here. At least like 50% of hands should be called against that sort of player. But I think those were pretty much the interesting hands I remember, at least. So thanks for watching the coaching, and thanks for anyone commenting. On the next week I will have some stuff for the Finnish side. You can give comments here on the Finnish side that what you want to be seeing, and for next English coaching I will most likely make new voting topic as usual, not forgetting this time. So good evening for everyone, whatever you are going to do, and bye for now.